welcome to Man On Football Manager with me, Dan. I came up with an experiment. What if Ryan Reynolds decided to splash the cash and sign Pep Guardiola to a lucrative 20-year contract at Wrexham? Could one of the best managers in the world take Wrexham from non-league all the way to the Premier League within 20 years? Let's not waste any more time, shall we? I'm going to quickly fast forward to the end of the first season and see if any of my changes on Football Manager's 2023 editor have worked, and to see if Pep has still a job. Otherwise this will be a very short experiment. Catch you in a sec. So we are at the end of the first season with Wrexham. It's June the 1st, 2023, and a lot of good things have happened. One, Pep Guardiola is still in a job, which is good. And secondly, Wrexham have won the National League, and that is a great result for this video. So here we are in the Vanarama National League. Wrexham were champions with 86 points, 25 wins, 11 draws and 10 losses. Looking at Guardiola's profile here, he's satisfied with life at the moment, and I would be too after getting Wrexham out of non-league in his first try. His attributes are insane. He's on £38,000 a week at Wrexham, that's why I said it to, by the way. And he's here until 2042, and I'm hoping that stays. I did say in the editor that he will be joining Barcelona at the end of this, but for some reason it's not showing up on the game, so this could mess up at any point. Hopefully no manager steals him off me in the next 20 years. But here we go. So the competitions for Guardiola at Wrexham this season, obviously they were promoted. They got the FA Trophy runner-up, unfortunately. Who did they lose to? They lost to Halifax. That's unfortunate. They were knocked out by Wolves in the FA Cup third round, which is unfortunate, but they made it to the third round, which is pretty good. Transfers, it's a little bit different for Pep here. Normally he's spending around 200 million a season. Here, 95,000. What a difference. So £95,000 worth of players in, 30,000 out. It'll be interesting to see how that goes later down the line, if he keeps getting promoted. So yeah, I don't know what else to tell you from this. So I think it's about time I skip now 4 years to 2027 and see see where Wrexham are and see where Pep is. He could be in a different job, I don't know. But we're going to find out right now. We are now 4 years later, June the 1st, 2027, and it's good news here as well, because they're in League One and it looks as if they've won League One, and Pep is still the manager, with Matty Longstaff as his captain. Wow. Okay, so a lot of things have changed here, so let's go down to it. Let's have a look at League One. So yeah, Wrexham, League One champions, with 79 points, 23 wins, 10 draws and 13 losses. And they're going up to the Championship with Swansea and Wigan. I personally haven't changed his contract. He should have been still on £30,000 per week. I'm assuming he had bonuses for getting promotions. That's the only way I can justify why he's earning £47,500 a week now. His attributes still look amazing. He's still satisfied with life. But let's check out his history for the last 4 years. So for the notables, I thought I'd show you first. In 2024, he won League 2 straight away, 2 back-to-back promotions, and he was the League 2 Manager of the Year. And then it's only until this recent season that they've won League 1. So going down further back to 2024, they were knocked out by Norwich in the Carabao Cup second round. They were knocked out by Barnsley in the Papa John's Trophy quarter-final. And I didn't see this earlier, but they were knocked out by Shrewsbury in the FA Cup second round. In 2025, they were knocked out by Bristol City in the Papa John's Trophy quarter-final, another quarter-final for him. They were knocked out by West Ham in the FA Cup fourth round. In his first time in League One with Wrexham, they finished 9th. And then they were knocked out by Port Vale in the Carabao Cup first round. I'm assuming that was for that summer, yeah. 2026... they finished 3rd in the league. They were so close. But then they were knocked out by Portsmouth in the semi-final playoff. That's unfortunate. He nearly got them promoted sooner. And then as we know, they got promoted in 2027. So looking at the transfers, in 2024 they spent 2.2 million and they got quite a few players on frees and then spent pretty much most of their budget on one player from Middlesbrough. However, on the transfers out, they sold nearly $500,000 in transfers, well, to 425,000 to be exact. 2025 they spent 22 million. Wow. I don't know where this money came from. I only set Pep as the manager. I have no idea what happened with the finances. And then I'm assuming with more leagues, the higher the leagues, the more money and prize money they got. Or they got a new owner. I have no idea. And transfers out was 900,000. 2026, only 11. I'm saying only 11 like it's not a huge amount for Wrexham, but 11.75 million. And transfers out 625,000. And that was this most recent season too. So we're in 2027, so now let's forward another 5 years. We will be in 2032, and I have no idea where Wrexham are going to be. This is going to be really interesting, and I can't wait for you to see it. I'm not going to ramble anymore. Catch you in a second. So we're here 5 years later, and am I reading this correctly? Am I seeing things? I see Wrexham up here, 18th in the Premier League. The Premier League. Pep is still here and he's made them a Premier League team. That's insane. I need to dig deep. Let's have a look. So we left them in 2027. In 2031, they were promoted from the Championship. It took him 4 years to get them promoted, but however, in this most recent season, their first time in the Premier League, he got them relegated. And I think my editor skills have worked because he would have been sacked most likely by now. But it's a good job it's worked because I want to see if Pep can get them back into the Premier League in the next 5 years. Competitions wise, I'm going to try and get through this quite quickly. So they were knocked out by Man City in the FA Cup semi-final. Wow, they made it to an FA Cup semi-final. That's insane as well. They were knocked out by Wolves in the Carabao Cup second round. In 2030, they were knocked out by Newcastle in the Carabao Cup 4th round, and they were knocked out by Brentford in the FA Cup 3rd round. 2029 to 2030, they were knocked out by Arsenal in the 5th round of the FA Cup, and then they were knocked out in the Carabao Cup by Salford in the 2nd round. So when we left them, they came 7th in their first season in the Championship. The second season in the Championship, they came 9th, which even went worse for them. Then they came 7th again in the Championship, and then they won it. So I want to know what happened in those 4 years in transfers. Let's have a look, shall we? So 2026 to 27, they spent 16.5 million. In 2027, where we left them, they spent 40 million in the Championship, and then sold 8.25 million pounds worth of players. In 2028, they only spent 15.25, so a lot less than previously. And they had to make their money back, it seems, because they sold 10.75 million pounds worth of players. In 2029, they bought 10.25 million and sold 3.7. And then the season they won the Championship, they spent 46.5 million. That's insane. And then basically only sold 825,000 pounds worth of player. And then I'm going to quickly show you here the amount they spent. So half the budget was on James McAtee, 9.25 million was for Ali Pardew from Crystal Palace. And then their first season in the Premier League, they only spent 12 million, which I think is kind of upsetting. I feel like they should have spent a lot more getting ready for Premier League football. It's no wonder they got relegated. Their highest signing of that season, which was just a little bit over half of their budget, was 6.5 million on Bobby Clark. And they sold 4.1 million pounds worth of players here as well. So they had a net profit of like 8 million. They should have spent a lot more. And Pep himself is 61 years old now. He's still got another 10 years to go at Wrexham. He's still on £47.5 thousand a week, and his attributes haven't really changed much that I can tell. So I think it's time I skip another 5 years now. Let's go to 2037. See you in a second. There is good news, folks. Wrexham are in the Premier League again. Pep is still at Wrexham, And I'm not going to waste any more time, let's go straight to it, shall we? So their first season back in the Championship in 2032-33, they were knocked out by Man United in the Carabao Cup second round. Then they were knocked out by Watford in the FA Cup third round, and only finished 9th in the Championship. I feel like he would have been sacked at this point. They clearly lost their way with Pep at this point. Well, I thought they would have, but no. He carried on, and then in 2033-34, they were knocked out by Sheffield Wednesday in the Carabao Cup second round, knocked out by Hull in the FA Cup, but then they came second in the Championship and were promoted. In 2034-35, they were knocked out by Sheffield United in the Carabao Cup third round, knocked out by Man City in the FA Cup fifth round, and came 17th in the Premier League. They were nearly relegated when they came back to the Premier League, but they just survived. I don't think Pep has ever had a relegation battle in his life, but he's having one here. Then 2035-36, they were knocked out by Newcastle in the Carabao Cup quarter-final. I swear that happened earlier in this video. Then they were knocked out by Man City in the FA Cup fourth round and finished 14th. A little bit of progress. They survived that one season in the Premier League. Now they are a Premier League team for sure. And then this most recent season in 2036-37, they were knocked out by Leicester in the Carabao Cup fourth round and knocked out by Everton in the FA Cup fourth round and finished 15th. So not much progress there. They're kind of a late to mid-table team at this point. But let's check out their transfers. So their first time back in the Championship, they spent 34 million, and I feel like they should have done that back in the first season of the Premier League, like I said earlier. But however, they did have to sell £50 million worth of players, so they're in the red really. There's no wonder they came 9th in that first season back. It was a complete rebuild, it seems. In 2033 they spent 54 million, but also sold 47.5. I got really excited then. In 2034 they spent 30 million and only 1.3 million out, which is good. That means they've got money again. They can spend again. In 2035, when they're back in the Premier League, they spent 60 million and they sold £12 million worth of players too. And then this most recent season, holy moly, where the hell did this come from? 175 million, but also sold 111 million. So they spent about 60 in net, but that is a lot of money. I don't know where that money came from. Wow. So I just thought I'd check the staff, and Ryan Reynolds is not a part of this anymore, so it looks like they did get taken over at some point. I should have checked way sooner. I apologise for that, but that probably explains why they've got a huge amount of money. I'm just look at that graph. That graph is amazing. From where they came from to now. That's insane. And their finances are rich. The owner loves the club. And I just want to check the facilities. So now they've got 20,703 all-seater stadium. They've got under-soil heating. They've got state-of-the-art training facilities and youth facilities, average corporate facilities, and adequate academy and recruitment, which I thought would have been better, to be honest. So let's not drag this out any longer. I'm going to skip now to the 20th season at Wrexham for Pep Guardiola. Let's see if he's still in the Premier League by then. Let's see if they can win a domestic trophy. If they can win a Carabao Cup or an FA Cup, that'd be amazing. But I'll see you in a second. So I am here at the milestones of Guardiola in 2042. It seems like nothing's happened in the last 5 years. They haven't been relegated, which is great news, but they haven't won anything either. I'm not going to go through the list of competitions, who they got knocked out by. I have a wild guess that you don't really care who they get knocked out by in the last 5 years. You only care if they won something. So let's go to transfers. So that following season, they spent 105 million and sold 63 million pounds worth of player. In 2038-39, they spent 73 million, but also had to sell 110 million pounds worth of players. That must have been a tough season for them. In 2039, they're still spending over 100 million, 126 million in fact, and only sold 17 million pounds worth of players. In 2040, they spent 144 million and sold 83 million pounds worth. And then this most recent season, they only spent 60 million, and I say only because that is quite less than the last 3 seasons. And then they had to sell 83 million pounds worth of players. So since 2036 to 2037, I can't remember. They ended 15th, 13th, and they were pretty much mid-table. They're a mid-table team in the Premier League now, very constant, 13th, 12th, 10th, and the most recent season they got 13th again. So Pep just can't get them in the top 10 of the Premier League, but I still think this is a huge achievement for him. His contract has gone down to 38,000 a week. I don't have a clue how this works, and he's 71 years old now. He's coming to the end of his contract with Wrexham. I want to see what happens to both Pep and Wrexham once they depart. I will catch you in a second. In the strangest of all things to happen on this game, once he left Wrexham, he joined Leeds as a scout. Disbelief. But looking at his attributes for a scout, that is insane. I'm surprised he went to Leeds. Why didn't he go somewhere else? And I just wanted to quickly check Leeds, and they've come 4th, 3rd, and 5th in the last couple of seasons. They've done really well. I forgot to point out that I only skipped to January into the next season just to see what happens. Well, Nana Boateng took over from Pep Guardiola, and they are sitting 13th in the Premier League right now. And they've spent £75 million in the summer, but sold £148 million worth of players. That's insane. It'd be interesting to see if they last in the Premier League at the end of this season. And I suppose I better find that out, shouldn't I? So I will catch you in a second. So at the end of that season, we are in June the 1st, 2043, and Wrexham came 12th in the end. They played 38 games, 12 wins, 7 draws and 19 losses, and ended with 43 points. So they survived without Pep, and in the end, after the January transfer window, they spent just under £160 million, but sold £240 million worth of players. That is incredible. So that is the experiment, guys. I can't believe Pep got them to the Premier League after 20 years. Well, I say 20 years, it was like 10, wasn't it? Which is incredible. Thank you for watching this experiment, and I will catch you at the next one.